Welcome back to Boilers and Beyond. I'm Jordan Jones. This was supposed to be more of a football-centric episode today because Barry Odom met with the media on Friday. Purdue's put together its transfer portal class. It sounds like Purdue's done there. However, Purdue basketball lost its second straight game on Saturday, 88-82 at home to Illinois, and that is the topic of the day. So we are going to pivot a little bit. We'll talk about Purdue's basketball loss to Illinois, talk about all of that, where Purdue goes from here, and then on the latter half of the show, we will talk about football with Barry Odom's comments and a few thoughts on Purdue's transfer portal class and where Purdue is here heading into a critical 2026 season. If you don't, follow the show on Twitter, @BoilersBeyond. We'll be talking about all things Purdue sports, football, basketball, all of that, everything college athletics. Come join the conversation there. You can always send in questions for the show. Do that on Twitter, @BoilersBeyond. You can email the show, boilersandbeyondpod@gmail.com. And be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We will be here every week all the way through the end of basketball season and beyond. Most weeks during the summer we'll try to do something. And then back into football season. It's a never-ending cycle here. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. But Purdue loses at home 88-82 to Illinois on Saturday. A pretty jarring outcome. Not as much that Purdue lost to Illinois because Illinois is a really good team, but to see Purdue lose twice at Mackey Arena before January is over was not on my bingo card this year. I said after the Iowa State game that I'd be shocked if Purdue lost again at Mackey Arena this year, and now Purdue's lost twice at Mackey Arena this season, something that just really doesn't happen very much. And everything that would have concerned you about Illinois coming into this matchup came to fruition. When you look at Illinois' roster, the first thing that jumps off is the size. Kylan Boswell was out. He's going to miss a month with a hand injury, and it turned out not to make a big difference in this game. But with him out, Illinois' entire lineup, the starting five, and then Illinois' two rotational guys, Ben Hummerkaus and Zvonimir Ivisic, added into the starting five, that's seven guys that are all 6'7" or taller. That's really big. That's really big. That's really long. And Illinois finishes with 13 offensive rebounds, leading to 18 second chance points. 5 Illini pulled down an offensive rebound. Oscar Clough and Trey Kaufman-Renn form a fairly formidable front line for Purdue. They rebound fairly well. Oscar Clough's a really good rebounder. Trey Kaufman-Renn has rebounded really well at the 4 this season. But when you're giving up that much size at the other spots, that's where it really gets you. Purdue is not a team with great positional size. It has Clough. It has Kaufman-Renn. Daniel Jacobson's 7'4". He has a ways to go as a rebounder. But aside from those three, Braden Smith's under 6 feet. C.J. Cox, Jakari Harris, they're like 6'3". Fletcher Lawyer, Omer Meyer, 6'4". Jack Benter, 6'6", playing the 4 spot. Purdue doesn't have a lot of great positional size here, and Purdue really got exposed there on the front line when Purdue couldn't close out possessions. 13 offensive rebounds is a ton. And it was the difference in this game. Of course, we'll get to Keaton Wagler momentarily. Wagler, I don't know. But that was the difference. Purdue was unable to close out possessions, and even when Illinois was getting a second chance that it didn't score on, it's such a momentum killer. It's such a killer when in this game Purdue's matching Illinois shot for shot. When Purdue's going down and seemingly scoring every time down, but it can't get that stop to where you force that missed shot attempt, you get the rebound, you go, you score again. When Illinois has the ball for 30, for 45 seconds at a time, that kills the momentum. That kills your flow. of course, was the second chance opportunities. There's the one early on in the game where I think Illinois got 4 shot attempts, leading to a Jake Davis made 3. That can't happen. But Purdue had to battle so much on the boards, and you saw impact Trey Kaufman-Renn in foul trouble. He had a decent game. He's 6 for 8 from the floor, but he's in foul trouble, and he only finishes with 2 rebounds, and he probably had to play fewer minutes than you would have liked. He plays 26 minutes. Purdue probably needed that number to be closer to 30, 32, just to battle inside with Illinois. But that was one of the first things that jumps out is an area of concern. Anytime you're playing a future lottery pick, it worries you. Now, you never know how that's going to go because we've seen many an NBA lottery pick that just doesn't do a ton in college and is a guy with great potential that leaves before he does a ton in college. But Keaton Wagler's not that. He was absolutely incredible in this game. As insane of a performance as I've ever seen from an opponent at Mackey Arena, really. I mean, 46 points is unheard of in college basketball. When's the last time you've heard of someone scoring 46 points in a game? It's not coming to mind for me. Maybe there's a good example. I don't know. But he scores 46 points on 17 shots, goes 9 for 11 from 3, gets to the foul line for 13 free throw attempts. He was phenomenal. He was truly a phenom in this game. He was as unstoppable of a force as you're going to find. It was breathtaking. It really was. You know, you sometimes see players that you have no answer for, and this is, in a very different way, reminiscent of Zach Edey a little bit, where you just have games where you're not going to stop him. This is what Carson Edwards did to teams in the NCAA tournament that year when Villanova and Virginia could try everything, and he's just hitting shots. Now, this continued the really troubling trend for Purdue defensively, where it is just getting killed in ball screen switches. It is getting killed. And you saw it right away from the jump, from the first few possessions. Illinois' goal was to get Oscar Clough switched on to Keaton Wagler and attack from there. And he missed a shot early. I think he maybe missed one on a drive. And at the first media timeout, you thought, okay, I don't know if he's going to be able to do this by himself. And then from there on out, he just utterly dominated the game. 24 in the first half, 22 in the second half. He was scoring at will when he had favorable matchups, and he was really good at facilitating when he didn't have the matchup he wanted. That was incredible poise, incredible maturity from a freshman playing in what was a really good atmosphere. Mackey was rocking for that game. That was a really, really big-time atmosphere, and he was unbelievable. Purdue's got to find an answer here, though, because this is 2 straight games here where Purdue's just gotten roasted based off of the opponent's star guard, and Wagler might be more of a wing, whatever. The opponent's primary ball handler getting into favorable matchups and just slicing and dicing Purdue's defense. And sure, Wagler hit some deep threes. You give him credit there. I don't know that you're ever truly furious when a guy settles for a 27, 28-foot three. It's in rhythm. It's fairly open, but it's a pretty long way to shoot the ball. But Purdue's got to find an answer here. Purdue has to find something that works, because you're going to find players that are capable of not scoring 46 points on you, not doing what Donovan did and have 23 and 11, if that's what it was, something like that. But there are guys that can beat you. There are guys that can really break you down there. And it's tricky. It's tricky because Purdue doesn't have a lot of great individual defenders. C.J. Cox and Jakari Harris do some good things. But again, when you've got Keaton Wagler at 6'7", they're 6'3". They were admirable on him, but it's not like they have a Chris Kramer or a No-Gel Eastern that's just going to erase your best player. Purdue doesn't have that on this year's team. Braden Smith plays free safety pretty well, but when Purdue was switching off the ball screen, it got really ugly. And I don't know what the answer to that is. Again, Purdue doesn't have this great positional size and length to where it's really, really disruptive on the perimeter. It's not a defense designed to force turnovers. It's a containment-based defense, but it's gotten Purdue roasted a little bit recently, and teams are shooting pretty well from deep against Purdue. That's kind of been Purdue's MO over the years, is you're okay living with, non-3-point shooters getting 3-point looks and mid-range jumpers, but right now it's not working for Purdue defensively, and it's a season of ebbs and flows. That's the name of the game in college basketball, where things happen. You have to respond to it. You have to adjust and figure out tweaks to your scheme to overcome the shortcoming that is getting exposed a little bit. And I hate using the term exposed because it feels like every clickbait headline and every ESPN first take, scream and yell talking point. But Purdue's been exposed a little bit here. And now you have to come back with a response. You have to give Wagler credit, though, that there aren't many players in America capable of doing that. Purdue's defense played a fairly significant role, but going 9 of 11 for 3 is just ridiculous. That is an all-time performance. That is as great of a performance as you'll ever see in Mackey Arena from a freshman. That was truly breathtaking. That was unbelievable. And then you saw Illinois down the stretch when Purdue was able to get it out of Wagler's hands. There was a time, the first time Purdue tried trailing Wagler, it played out the exact same way as the Tyler Bilodeau shot that beat Purdue, because Purdue sends both guys off of the ball screen, and David Merkovich gets an open 3, and he cans it. Same deal. Oscar Clough coming back in rotation, and he knocks it down. And Illinois has guys at all 5 positions that can really shoot. The worst shooter out there, ironically, is Peja Stojakovic's kid, which is kind of funny to say because his dad's an all-time legend as a 3-point shooter. But Illinois can really stretch you out and shoot. And when Purdue gets in these rotations, not only do you have a less advantageous defender on Keaton Wagler, but you have less advantageous guys on everyone else. So sure, Wagler may be guarded by Trey Kaufman-Renn or Oscar Clough or Braden Smith or whoever it may be, but when Oscar Clough is on him, even if he misses or if he shoots or passes and someone else shoots, then you have Braden Smith or Omer Meyer or Fletcher Lawyer or whoever it may be trying to box out Tomislav Ivicic, trying to guard or box out his brother, trying to box out David Merkovich at 6'9". And that's where you get in these problems with offensive rebounding. And you have guys that can really step out and shoot. There's no one that you can really let go. Maybe you can play off Stojakovic's kid a bit, but if you get burnt by a dude with Stojakovic on his jersey, you're just going to feel stupid. So it presents a really big challenge. And you saw Illinois embrace the live by the 3, die by the 3 way of playing basketball. 2/3 of Illinois' shot attempts came from 3-point range. That is a massive amount. And Illinois goes 18 for 38. And when you just take that at face value, how many times are you going to lose a game when you make 18 threes? I remember Alabama losing to Purdue in Canada a couple years ago when it makes 19, but it doesn't happen often. And Purdue scored like 104 points that day. It's just a real problem, and it presents a math equation problem. When you make that many threes, you're going to be in a wonderful position. But when you miss threes, when you take that, you don't have a chance. It's reminiscent of Alabama a little bit, just in the sense that it's such a live by the 3, die by the 3 approach. And it doesn't guarantee you anything, because Alabama's done that for 3 years now, and Purdue's beaten it all 3 seasons with 3 very different teams. This is why Illinois is number 1 in the nation in offensive efficiency. This is a really, really good Illinois team. This is a team that has everything on the table. I mean, it looks the part of a national title contender. It scores at such a high clip, and I don't think Illinois is a great defensive team, but we'll see. I mean, this is a complete contender in the Big Ten. It's a really, really good team. Brad Underwood's really built a nice program over there. He has done it in a very different way than what Purdue has done. It's a program that's very much year to year figure it out with very different teams, but it works for them, and so be it. You give Illinois all the credit in the world, because ever since Underwood brought in that group with Ayo Dosunmu and Kofi Coburn, this has been one of the best programs in the Big Ten, and right there with Purdue, with Michigan State. Michigan's been had its ups and downs, but Illinois is right there with everybody, and it's a bummer because this spoils what was a really great day from Purdue on offense. Over 1.3 points per possession. Braden Smith was phenomenal. 27 points, 12 assists, 1 turnover. He was awesome. He was absolutely awesome. And in any other game flow, he's the story here, because that's a tremendous stat line. But it wasn't enough. And you see how valuable he is, because, again, plus minus can be a stat that you do what you want with it, but Braden Smith is off the floor for 3 minutes, and in those minutes, Purdue is a -8. I've been to a lot of games at Mackey Arena. I've been in Mackey Arena where I'm like one of 3 people inside of it, and when Braden Smith was down early in the second half after a play, that's as quiet as I've heard Mackey Arena. It was a real scare, but he was okay. He was able to check back in. That was great. But this was an offensive clinic, just a really well-played game of offense on both sides. Illinois didn't really have answers for Purdue. Purdue was incredibly efficient. Purdue shoots 57% from the floor. It was really good. It only turns the ball over 3 times. If you want an area of encouragement for Purdue, Purdue's really taking care of the basketball well. It's 15th in the nation in turnover rate on offense. That's a big deal. When you have an offense as efficient as Purdue is, that's a really, really big deal, that you're not turning the basketball over. Omer Meyer played really well. It came to my mind last night. I do wonder if there's something to Omer Meyer playing his best, maybe one of his best games at Purdue so far, against a team that plays a very international European brand of basketball. I wonder if there's anything to that. Maybe there's not, maybe there is, but he was really good. He hit some big shots for Purdue. He held his own defensively. Obviously, he's not a great rebounder, but he had a really nice game. I think a lot of folks got what they were wanting when Fletcher Lawyer didn't play for the last 15 minutes or so. It didn't solve Purdue's problems. He's in a slump shooting right now. He is not a great individual defender. It doesn't change Purdue's issues. His absence from the floor didn't help Purdue defensively. Purdue was great on offense when he was on the floor. Purdue was great on offense when he was off the floor. These problems right now are bigger than just one individual player. And they're problems in the sense that you're getting exposed in some areas, but this is still a really good team. This is still a really good Purdue team. And, he's going to snap out of his shooting funk at some point, but Fletcher Lawyer's presence or lack thereof doesn't change Purdue's limitations defensively that have been exploited by Donovan Dent, by Tyler Bilodeau, and by Keaton Wagler here over the last couple of games. Look, this is a real big blow to the Big Ten race. This was a team that I think you really wanted to win the Big Ten with. You still can. I mean, it'd be foolish to sit here and say that Purdue is completely dead in the Big Ten race. It has 2 losses. It has 2 losses. It has only 1 game each against the, other 3 of the contenders in the league that you haven't played yet. Losing to Illinois is a big deal, but you get Michigan and Michigan State at home. You get Nebraska on the road. You play those teams only once. But when you lose at home, it's a really big demerit in the Big Ten race. I was at the game with a buddy, and we're sitting at lunch, and we're talking about it. And it's It's every year. It feels like when Purdue doesn't lose at home, it wins the Big Ten. I think back to the 2019 team. That team didn't lose at home in Big Ten play. It won the Big Ten. I think back to the 2024 team. That team didn't lose at home in Big Ten play. Both those teams, I think, went undefeated at home for the season. And Purdue won the Big Ten that year. It goes a long way, man. I don't think Michigan State lost at home last year. I know 2 of its 3 losses were on the West Coast. And it wins the Big Ten. When you lose games at home, it's a big blow because you're going to slip up on the road a couple of times. It's inevitable. That's a big deal. And you start looking at how bad the bottom of the Big Ten is this season and how good the top 5 teams are relative to everyone else. And it's hard to see this getting down to 15-5 to win the league. This is feeling like a 17-3, a 16-4 type of year, which is still on the table. But your margin for error has gotten very, very small here. And again, you give Illinois all the credit here because that is a Big Ten contender. That's a Final Four contender. That's a national title contender. That's a really, really good team. It leads into a really big stretch for Purdue here now where you have 2 away games this week against Indiana and Maryland that you have to have. Indiana is not particularly good. It is very limited, but it's going to shoot a bunch of threes, and Purdue has struggled with the three-pointer recently. Lamar Wilkerson's going to put a bunch of them up. Tucker DeVries is going to put a bunch of them up. Indiana doesn't have much for size. This has to be a game where Purdue gets right in the rebounding department, where Purdue's able to use Trey Kaufman-Renn and Oscar Clough and Daniel Jacobson to its advantage. But you've got to be wary of what Indiana can do from three-point range. That's going to be a fired-up crowd. It's going to be obviously Indiana's first game at Assembly Hall since it won the national title in football. I'd assume there will be some festivities there for that. And for an Indiana team that's not particularly good this year, that I doubt makes the NCAA tournament, getting the chance to beat Purdue is going to be a pretty big deal. So Purdue's got to get right there, and then you go to Maryland, who's awful. But as Gene Cady once said, it's not who you play, but when you play them. Purdue got UCLA at a pretty bad time when UCLA was desperate for a win. Now that's Purdue, and you have to use that old saying to your advantage here, and you have to be the team that Indiana and Maryland are getting at really bad times and come out and get right and get back to where you want to be. Again, this is a season of ebbs and flows. Every basketball season is that way a little bit. The Big Ten is a league with really good coaching, really good scouting, that when you have deficiencies, they're going to get attacked and they're going to get exposed, and you have to come back with a way to counter it. And we'll see what Purdue can do here. You can't, unless Purdue's going to start filing for temporary restraining orders to get G League guys back into the program. Your roster is what it is. You're not changing your personnel at this point. You've just got to find ways on the margins to be a little bit better and turn giving up 88 into giving up 78, and you win this game. Giving up 13 offensive rebounds into giving up 8 offensive rebounds, and you win this game. You just got to find a way to improve a little bit here, and you can make a big difference. But obviously a pretty disappointing week for Purdue fans. A lot of hand-wringing, a lot of frustration, and rightfully so. This is a team, again, that you judge with really strict scrutiny because it is a team with real aspirations, with players who have not shied away from wanting to win a national title. They've been very open and very vocal about that. And when that's your goal and you lose a couple games at home, really struggling on defense the way you did in those 2 losses, it's fair to be frustrated. It absolutely is. It's 2026. The new year is here, and away from the podcast, it is another year where I get to help folks with their insurance coverages. As an Indiana Farm Bureau insurance agent, I'm here to make sure your insurance program is exactly where you need it to be. From home and auto to life and business insurance, I can do it all. Give me a call at 317-846-5861 or email me at jordan.jones@infarmbureau.com, and let's make sure you are all set for 2026. Barry Odom met with the media on Friday, spent about 40 minutes, a little bit under that, talking about his program. I think he called it a bit of a state of the program address. Had one of the longest opening statements you will ever hear. He kept on going and kind of poked some fun at himself a little bit when he got done, but talked a lot. Talked about a lot of things that are of interest to Purdue fans, talked about his transfer portal class, some of the changes that have been made in the program. I'm not going to sit here and recap it. You can find the video over at goldenblack.com on YouTube has it. He brought up a good point. This year, Purdue is going to have the advantage of having its roster together for a full offseason. Now that there's just one transfer portal window, the portal cycle is pretty much done. Purdue has said it's done taking transfers unless something falls into its lap now. It's getting probably too late to enroll someone for this semester. So now Purdue has its roster together in mid to late January, whereas last year that wasn't the case at all. Purdue was really patchworking its roster through the first portal window, and then it had a ton to do in the second portal window after spring ball. I don't think Purdue really had a roster that was even capable of fielding a spring game if it wanted to last year. Now you have your whole group together and you have a full off season. That's a big deal. That should really help Purdue, especially as you're in year 2 with Josh Henson as the offensive coordinator with continuity at the quarterback position. That should be a big deal. And I will give Barry Odom credit for pointing that out because he's right. That should be a big advantage for Purdue. He talked in great deal about the decision to stick with Ryan Brown at quarterback and spoke glowingly about how he felt about Ryan Brown's capabilities and what he is capable of doing and what he's seen from him in practice. And look, we can debate this until the cows come home. It is a gamble to stick with Ryan Brown after the season he had. He showed some flashes early on in the year. The second half of the season, he really struggled. Was that him being dinged up? Was that some confidence being shaken after a really tough loss at Minnesota? Was that teams scouting him and figuring him out? I don't know. I don't have the answers to all of that. It's probably a mix of everything. But it is a calculated decision to stick with Ryan Brown. And I know Barry Odom says that Purdue has the funds to do whatever it wants to do, but let's face it, the quarterback position is very expensive to attract out of the portal. You hear these guys, these top line players getting, $4 million, $5 million. I don't know that Purdue is ever going to get a guy like that. I think those guys are typically looking to go to a little bit more of a ready-made contender, but if you're going to go out and prioritize the quarterback spot, you're investing a lot of your capital into the quarterback position when, let's face it, Purdue had holes everywhere. Last year's struggles were far from just a Ryan Brown problem. Purdue had issues everywhere on both sides of the football. So it seems to me like Purdue has really prioritized improving everywhere else, counting on some year-to-year improvement from Ryan Brown, and going from there. It is certainly a decision to not go after a more proven backup quarterback because Purdue doesn't really have much there. You're looking at Bennett Meredith, you're looking at Evans Chuba, you're looking at Garrett Odom, and the freshman Corin Berry. Not much there in terms of proven production. Now, I don't see practice. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but that's a big decision, especially when you want to run the quarterback like Purdue does. The proof is going to be in the pudding on that one. And the proof is also going to be in the pudding with the hire of Kevin Kane as the defensive coordinator. This was the first time we heard Barry Odom talk about this decision. It's one that Mike Babinski addressed a little bit when he spoke with the media a week and a half ago. Look, it's one that isn't going to be a popularity contest move. It can't be. It just isn't. But if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, it's going to be a move that really gets questioned and, quite bluntly, makes you look pretty bad. A decision that is going to really make people question Barry Odom from the fan base. It is what it is. Barry Odom has made this hire. He believes in it. He believes in Kevin Kane. He had really good things to say about Kevin Kane, and he was pretty diplomatic when he was asked about what Kevin Kane did at Purdue the last time, but he put it pretty clearly, and as we all know, Kevin Kane was the defensive coordinator, but it wasn't his defense. It was Ryan Walters' defense. Ryan Walters had the keys to the defense until he decided to take the keys to the offense, and then Kevin Kane took the keys to the defense, and by that point, that season had already spiraled out of control, and there was no saving it. We'll see. We'll see. He said Kevin Kane's going to call the defense. It's his defense. So, look, the proof is going to be in the pudding on both of these. They are both decisions that, if they work out, everyone's going to be thrilled. If they don't work out, people are going to be pretty upset about it, and rightfully so. They're bold decisions, but this is what Barry Odom makes over $6 million a year for. He's got to make tough decisions, and when you are looking to build back up a program that has gone 7-29 over the last 3 years, that's gone 3-21 over the last 2 years, you got to make some difficult decisions. This isn't a turnkey winner by any means. I'm not going to go too deep into the portal. Maybe after spring practice when basketball is over, we'll do a real deep dive into what Purdue's added. But I think the portal's probably a net positive for Purdue this year. You lost some guys you wanted to keep, and you lost more guys than you would have liked that you wanted to keep. On the offensive line, losing Braden Joyner and Hank Purvis is a big blow. Those are guys you want to keep. When you have returning starters on the offensive line, and Braden Joyner was probably your best offensive lineman, you really want to keep him. That's a big loss. Losing Nitro Tuggle is a loss in the sense that at this point, he's more of a potential than proven production guy. And I know the production over potential is the whole buzzword and buzz phrase going around right now because it's Curt Cignetti's thing. And Barry Odom kind of talked about embracing that mentality a little bit too. But I mean, when you have guys with high potential, you want to get the most out of them, and you want that in your building. I mean, come on, this isn't rocket science here. And he showed some really good flashes this year. He leaves for South Carolina. Losing Chops Harkless, big deal. Losing D'Amico Kennedy, you'd have liked to keep him. There are guys you would have liked to keep, and I'm sure I'm missing someone. Alex Sanford at linebacker, he's someone you wanted to keep around. He did some good things this year, but Purdue's brought in some nice pieces as well. And the hope has to be that you're not just swapping pieces. That's kind of been what Purdue has done in the portal here since the portal became a thing, where guys go out, guys come in. Purdue loses its best guys. It's Dylan Thienemans, it's Nick Scortons, it's Will Heltz. But aside from that, it's mostly just swapping average players. You got to hope that you're hitting on some guys. I did think it was interesting to hear Barry Odom talk about looking for guys with multiple years of eligibility remaining. And if you can retain them, that's a big deal. I know in this era of wanting to really form the oldest roster you can, having some one-year guys is a good deal. But when you're looking to build something, when you're looking to build some consistency, some continuity, having guys year over year is a big deal. If you can pull it off, it's a big deal. It's a really nice addition to have guys that are able to build and develop inside your program. Now, the proof is going to be in the pudding on that, because if you bring in these guys with multiple years of eligibility and at this time next year they're playing for a different school, then that has been, kind of a moot point, a moot strategy. But if you can make it work, wonderful. You love it. again, I decided not to do a deep dive into the portal here after the way the basketball game went, because I didn't really want this to be an hour episode. I have to go out and shovel snow here when I'm done. It is deep out there. I'm not looking forward to that. But look, we're going to find out in September. This is a massively critical year for the direction of Purdue football. You just have to give fans something to be excited about. You have to show signs of life, so to speak. We'll find out. And it starts quick. You got Wake Forest week 2, Notre Dame week 3, and you're into Big Ten play. This is not an easy schedule. You do get a couple of breaks in Big Ten play, but you're going to find out real quick what Purdue's made of and whether this portal cycle really did make Purdue better or not. But that's all I've got for today. I'll be back next week. We'll talk after Purdue takes on Indiana and Maryland, a stretch that Purdue's got to have. You look here, last thought here on basketball. You look here at this stretch. You have Indiana and Maryland, games that you're going to be favored in. You're going to be a huge favorite at Maryland. Then you get 5 days off, and you play at home against Oregon. You get 5 days off between Maryland on a Sunday and Oregon at home on a Saturday. That's a big stretch for Purdue where it's quite obvious that Braden Smith has been dinged up. There's a lot about Trey Kaufman-Renn. Mick Cronin was the one who floated it. I don't know how healthy Trey Kaufman-Renn is or isn't, but if he's dinged up at all, that's a nice stretch where you can get some time to heal up, rest up, and get geared up if you can win these next 3 games to have a really big week where you play at Nebraska and at Iowa, and then you come home for Michigan. It gets real after this 3-game stretch. You have some really difficult games, and if you can maximize your opportunity here against some lesser opponents, you can find yourself in a pretty good spot here as some other teams in the Big Ten maybe start to take some losses too. So that's all I've got, guys. Thanks for listening. I appreciate you all. Follow on Twitter, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Give us a 5-star review if you enjoy the show. Let me know what you want to see more of. Always open. This is your guys' show as well. So we'll talk to you next week. Stay safe, stay warm out there, and take care, everyone.